Welcome to She Speaks, women's wisdom for every woman, a space for us to feel seen, celebrated, connected, and inspired. Here, we come together to tell our stories, share our lessons, celebrate our unique strengths, and reconnect with the sacred feminine wisdom that exists in all of us and guides us towards a lit up life of peace, empowerment, purpose, and prosperity. I'm Shar Wilson, your host, a mind body wellness teacher and life alignment guide, helping high achieving women transform from burned out to lit up through a holistic wellness approach. And each week, you're invited to join me and my guests in heartfelt conversations on holistic health and well-being, resilience, and living authentically. Whether you're navigating life's big changes, seeking deeper purpose, or simply craving connection and inspiration, you'll walk away with bite-sized brilliance as we uncover empowering insights and practical steps to help you create a life of balance, joy, and fulfillment. And today, for the last episode of season 1 of She Speaks, I am joined again by my special guest, dear friend, coach, and mentor, Katelyn Sonnier. She is an Ayurveda practitioner and spiritual guide for many, many women, including myself. So Katelyn, welcome to my show. It's an honor and delight to have you back here today.
Hey, Shar. Thank you for having me. I hold such respect for you. So it's just great to come and have conversation about everything that's happening.
Yeah. You really helped me to peel back the layers and understand how to apply the concepts of Ayurveda to my personal life. That is your gift. You have the ability to take this really complex and ancient system and break it down into ways that women can really apply it to their life and start to experience short-term relief and lasting results. So that's what I want to dedicate this episode to. And if you're listening and you want to hear a little bit more about Katelyn's story, you can go back to episode 1 of this season. So she shares a little bit more about how she completely healed herself. She took herself off medication after being on it for over a decade, and that had some negative implications in her body. And so she landed on Ayurveda and started applying it to her life, then began studying it deeply, and now is a coach and guide for many, many women, including myself, on how we can take back control and power through Ayurvedic practices and principles. So, Katelyn, can you break down for us, first and foremost, what does Ayurveda mean for someone who's listening and has never heard of that term? What is it?
So Ayurveda is an ancient holistic healing science that was found in the Indus Valley region of Asia. Some say 10,000 years ago, some say 5, but as old as 3. And it is a holistic science in the sense that it gives us principles and practices to follow so we can keep our bodies healthy and aligned every season. And it's based on the elements and how all these elements are uniquely expressed within our body. All of our organs are affected by the elements. So it's a holistic elemental science, and it uses lifestyle and diet and herbs and a lot of mental processing to heal the body, because Ayurveda teaches that disease starts in the body, dis-ease, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the word, because it's a word that's in the Sanskrit origin of language, the word translates to the science of life, the study of life, the wisdom of life. And when I was doing my yoga teacher training, and I remember hearing just the explanation of what this word meant, like I was just moved. And I'm like, the science of life, like I can study life? Like, whoa. And then it was like, yeah, you want to know how to study life? Study your body and how it changes on every hour, how it changes every season, how it changes every moment, how it changes with every meal. And that's how you study life. And that's Ayurveda. It's like, I can get on board with this.
Yeah. My first hearing of Ayurveda was also in my 200-hour yoga teacher training. And they obviously just barely skimmed the surface. We spent 2 hours on it, tip of the iceberg. But I was so intrigued by it because I have always just been really drawn towards systems like the Enneagram, human design, other things like that help me to better understand myself and also to better understand the inner workings of other people so that I can empathize with them, so that I can connect with them. It was so intriguing to me to think about, oh, there's a little bit of like a blueprint of who Shar is and how I can navigate the world in alignment with my blueprint. And if I do that, then life doesn't have to be so hard. Life's already hard enough, but I can work in alignment with myself better by understanding what Ayurveda calls a dosha. So can you break down what that is?
Yeah. So, like I said, Ayurveda is an elemental science, and it's based on the 5 natural elements: ether, air, fire, water, and earth. 2 of those elements get together to create the doshas. So there's vata, and there's pitta, and there's kapha. So vata is made of the natural elements of ether, space, emptiness, vastness, and air. We know air through like wind and breath. And then there's pitta, and pitta is made of the 2 elements of fire and water. And we know fire is hot and transformative, and water as flow and cool and moving. And then there's kapha. Kapha is made of earth and water. And we know what water is. We just touched on that. But earth is the mud, the dense, the heaviness. And so each individual is made of the 5 elements. So therefore, each individual is made up of the 3 doshas. And they're all organized in different amounts in the body. And if you know anything about Chinese medicine, it's very similar. There's a lot of parallels to it. And so the different elements have different roles in the body. So therefore, the doshas have different roles in the body and support different organs and support different systems and functions in the body. So it's a whole different science and way of understanding how life moves through the body,
Mhm.
how life is lived through each individual every season.
Yeah. How would someone go about figuring out what their dosha is? What's the best way?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're in the West, and everybody loves a good quiz, right? So there's hundreds and thousands of quizzes that you can. I mean, even I have one. There's so many dosha quizzes that you can take. But like, if you really love a good experiment, it's like just sit with your body for a second. Like, do you usually touch your skin? Like, what does it feel like? Is it dry? Is it rough? Is it soft? Is it damp? Like, what does your skin feel like? What's the tone of your skin? And then looking up, like, if you touch your skin, it's very dry, right? So then just get familiar with dryness. Like, which one of the elements would you think is more dry? Not water,
Right.
right? Maybe fire. Fire can be pretty drying out, and air. Okay, so you can eliminate those 2 and just kind of play around with how the elements work in your body.
Mhm.
There is dosha quizzes, and that's usually how people go down the rabbit hole of Ayurveda and trying to figure out what dosha they are and living their life based on their dosha type, eating based on their dosha type. It goes a lot deeper than that, but that's a really good place to start. And dosha just means your imbalance. It's your fault line. It's where you're likely to go out of balance.
And that was such an interesting awakening for me the first time I heard you say that dosha is actually your fault line. Because
Yeah.
my initial, very elementary understanding of Ayurveda, again, from my yoga teacher training, was that dosha is more like this is your identity, you know? And as a pitta, I think in black and whites, and I'm really working on, leaning more into the vata qualities that I embody, that I'm actually, my soul is more aligned with vata qualities, which is fluid, like air and ether.
Mm.
And so really having to pull away from the black and white thinking to the gray thinking and the both and, or the, not an either or kind of situation. And so hearing that, I was like, oh, so dosha doesn't mean I'm locked in. I don't want to be boxed in.
It's telling you what's keeping you. Like, your
Yeah.
dosha is what's keeping you from actually living what you really are.
Yeah. Can you say that again, but in a different way?
So your dosha is like in human design. If you follow human design, they have like your not self.
Mm-hmm.
Your dosha is like your not self. It's like how it's your resistance in your body. It's all of the resistance in your body that's showing up in a certain way. So like if you resist life with anger and rage and frustration, like you're going to have a pitta imbalance. If you face life with like, oh, we'll just kind of figure it out. We'll just go with the flow. That you could have a kapha imbalance. Watching how you approach life.
Yeah. When you first identified, well, one, will you tell us about your constitution, your Ayurvedic constitution, and what that changed for you when you learned it?
Yeah. So my dosha is kapha, which means that most of my imbalances, almost all of my imbalances, are found in kapha dosha, which means that I tend to err on the more depressed side. If I'm not careful, I can gain weight really easily if I'm not careful. Sinus infections, coughs, lung infections, bronchitis, pneumonia, things like that show up in the body whenever there's an imbalance in kapha. So knowing that I have that about myself, I can live in a way where it's a little more balanced. I'm using different practices to balance that. So in learning that about myself, I learned that I developed that imbalance, that depression, that heaviness, that lethargy to ground a really active mind.
Mm.
A mind that would disassociate, a mind that was medicated for so long
Mm.
and didn't really understand her emotions, so really having that kapha energy helped me stay here, helped me stay alive, so now I have to watch it
Yeah.
because I think that tendency.
What are your telltale imbalance signs?
I stop moving. Like my body just kind of stops moving. Like I freeze.
Yeah.
You go in freeze state. So like flight or freeze, they'll show up differently in the body. So when my mind is really active and nervous and there's a lot of anxiety going on, like the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to freeze. I'm going to shut down. And so
Just feel that.
I've developed all of my kapha tendencies because I used all of that energy to calm down. I would binge eat
Mm.
and just like eat. And I would watch like all the sad shows to make me cry. Like I just really would just let myself get sucked in the freaking couch, because it just felt it was comfortable for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And what do you reach for? So you notice because you're paying close attention. You notice that those imbalances, you're feeling those. Now you're probably noticing them before they get really, really exacerbated. So when you notice those now, what do you do to bring balance?
Well, whenever I notice those things now, what I do to bring in balance is the opposites of what I'm noticing.
Mhm.
So if I feel really heavy and dense and sluggish in my body and my body's producing a lot of mucus through like snot or just like a lot of saliva, there's just a lot of density and heaviness, I'm going to elevate my heart rate and I'm going to eat things that are light and uplifting. I'm not going to reach for the heavy pastas, the meats, the grounding foods. I'm going to eat something a little lighter,
Mhm.
like curries, lentils, and things like that. So thinking about like the opposite of what you're feeling, like we already know how to do this.
Right.
When we're feeling really hot, we go and drink a cold beverage.
Yeah.
Whenever we're cold, we're going to drink a warm beverage. We're going to put on more clothes. Like we naturally know how to do these things.
Yeah. And this really comes back to real, just simplifying it. If we get really simple with this, which Ayurveda is not simple, it's complex, but we can enter it through a simple understanding and start there, is even if I don't know what my dosha is, what my constitution is, I can pay attention to the elemental qualities that I'm experiencing. Am I feeling very fired up, feisty, irritable, short tempered? Probably there's too much pitta happening there. So then I can reach for the opposite of pitta. So pitta is hot, it's sharp. What would be an opposite quality that I would want to reach for? Well, I would want to reach for water and earth and grounding. I'd want to slow down. I mean, if there's anything that you've taught me over the past year of working with you the most is that kapha is my medicine.
Yes.
And so can you talk just a little bit about that of understanding between these three different doshas, vata, pitta, kapha? We are all of them. We contain the energy of all of them and they're all interplaying. But there is one that is our fault line, that is our struggle in this life. There is another that's more aligned with our soul essence. And there is one that is our medicine. We talk about that, and you can use me as an example.
Yeah. So for example, Char's a lot of pitta. She's a lot of fire, right?
Can you tell?
Also, she's also a lot of air. And so working with her and understanding her patterns and how she processes and approaches things, we came to the conclusion that like at moments in time, her air was feeding her fire. And it was getting hotter and hotter because when you bellow a fire, like there's more air. So all of like her thoughts and her mental activity was just like fueling her fire even more. And so you've got vata and you've got pitta at play here. And so having to lean into the opposite one as your medicine. And the qualities of kapha is earth and water. Really using those elements of earth and water to keep you in balance.
Yeah, perfect. So we've talked about understanding your dosha, your fault line, how to balance it through understanding the elements and the qualities of those elements. And we talked about that on a individual basis.
Right. Yeah.
Let's zoom out and talk about that on like how do the seasons, the cycles of life impact those elements.
Okay, cool. So like we were talking about how different times, different moments that you can feel different temperatures, different textures on your body. Did you ever connect with how you're feeling to the weather?
Yeah,
Like right
I
now,
hate summers.
yeah,
Summers are bad for me.
it's raining and I have a lot of water and a lot of earth in my body. So what happens when it rains? Right? The ground gets soggy. It gets wet, it gets damp, it gets heavy. And though right now in March, early March, it's pretty cool. So my hands are clammy. The moisture is being elevated in my body and I am freezing because the earth in me is just like really cool. And so my kapha is really elevated right now. And so like I can lay on the couch and go into an abyss and lay in silence and stillness and not do anything and be totally okay.
Yeah.
And so that's my kapha like really revving up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow it could be different because the weather is going to change. In the winter, it's likely for me to feel like this and me to have to really work really hard because the winter is kapha. There is so much earth and water. I mean, depending on where you live, there's varying amounts, but there's earth and water that's present late winter, early spring. So like we're coming to the end of kapha.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to watch how the season shifts for me specifically. I've lived in Texas my whole life, which is probably not a great state for me to live in because it's hot. It's very, very aggravating and exacerbating for my pitta dosha. And we had the opportunity to live in Denver, Colorado from January through, the end of this month. And just being able to shift to a cooler, drier environment with more mountains, more green, that has significantly impacted me in a good way. I've been able to, it just encouraged more slowness because it's very snowy here. It's very cold. It was like I finally had the elemental excuse to slow down during winter versus just winter is no change. We're just going to go 110 miles an hour through winter. We're going to set our New Year's goals. We're just going to keep crushing it. And that is not my experience this year. And it has been so welcomed and healing.
Mm-hmm.
It's been fun to see that if you're listening and you've recently moved and you've noticed an energetic shift because of the environment, the physical environment that you're in and the weather, that also has an interplay. So something to think about if you're about to move somewhere or you've moved somewhere, if you're literally traveling, when you hop on an airplane and you're literally moving, then you might have a little bit more of a vata uptick, which could help you or hinder you based on your doshic constitution. So it's really, really cool to see just those subtle shifts.
Yeah.
So can you talk? Go ahead.
sorry to interrupt, but it's really interesting that you say that. We actually medicate this phenomenon,
Oh, yeah. Tell me why.
seasonal affective disorder.
Mhm.
Like your mood is supposed to change in the seasons. Like your desire to want to do specific things is supposed to change every season, but we've medicated it. I was just like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. And specifically with women, like we're working with multiple levels of seasonality. Obviously, the external seasons of the weather, spring, summer, fall, winter, as well as every month during our menstruation cycle, we're moving through those seasons. And that's probably a whole other podcast episode, which I find extremely fascinating. And you've helped me to understand that I can't be 100% every single day of my cycle. And when I was in corporate world, I sure was trying to be. And I was literally dampening those instincts, my intuition, through birth control, which no knocks. If birth control is what you need, okay. But I decided it was no longer what I needed. And I've become more in tune with those micro seasons that I experience every single month and how they're affecting me. And so when I'm in my fall, which I'm in right now, my pre-menstruation, or when I'm in my winter, when I'm bleeding, I'm a very different Shar. And my days look different. My energy is different. The way I interact with people is different. I loved hearing you say when we first started working together, you're 4 different women every single month. So you're going to show up differently for your clients during those seasons of yourself. And that just gave me so much grace. And that helped me to be very fluid instead of black and white. Of I just have to be on all the time.
Yeah, I tell my women all the time, I'm like, what you're going to love the most about Ayurveda is that it gives you permission.
Yep.
Gives you permission.
Yeah. Gives me permission to rest. Yeah. Instead of being like, what's wrong with you? Get
Yeah,
it
and
together, girl.
that's what nature does. Like nature will give you permission to do whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Okay. So let's dive into that. Specifically, you have a cleanse coming up at the changing of seasons. So you do 2 cleanses a year, one in the spring, and it's kicking off this week, and then another in the fall. So tell us a little bit more about the spring cleanse and why now? What's the intentionality of doing a cleanse right now?
Why now? So Ayurveda teaches to cleanse at the end of the summer and at the end of the winter to help usher the accumulation of those elements out of the body. So we are encouraged to cleanse now because we have accumulated so much earth and so much water in our body. And it's just time to let it all go, to rebalance the doshas. And the cleanse is done in 3 different parts, and it's done in 14 days. So there's such a good moment where you can really come home and really get curious about what it is that you want to cleanse out of your life. This is a time where we can blossom and turn into what it is that we want to express and show. And at the end of the summer, it's the time to let all of what we've learned become the nutrients for the soil that's going to nourish what we're blossoming into now.
Mm.
So it's the beginning and the ending of a cycle and to Ayurveda. And so in the spring, it's to let go of all of the heaviness and the awarenesses that you got during the winter. And then now you can leave them behind and use them as nourishment for something new.
Yeah.
And in each phase, it offers a kind of a different practice to help bring that in. So the first phase is elimination. So like you are choosing to eliminate things from your diet that are known to cause inflammation, that are known to be habit forming, that are known to be pulling you away from the wisdom of your body. So there's a diet cleanse and there's also a lifestyle cleanse. Like, can you say no to social media for 14 days? Can you say no to going to the bar for 14 days? Can you say no to eating sugar and drinking coffee for 14 days. So it's an invitation to step into possibly being something different. And then the second part of the cleanse is now let's think about your actual dependence and relationship with food, because you're going to eat this one dish called khichdi, which is rice, mung dal beans, and spices for 5 days for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's options, right? There's different things you can do if you're like, oh my God, we can make it. But
Yeah.
you eat it for 5 days, but it really breaks your brain on thinking that, yes, food is for pleasure and there's a time to pleasure your food. Ayurveda says do that at lunchtime. Eat for pleasure at lunch. Let everything else just be like to nourish. But it's really coming in to see what is my relationship with food. Can I allow it to just be a substance that nourishes me? And then, physiologically, what this dish is doing is it's all the herbs and spices are working with different organs of the body. So it's detoxing the organs, it's pulling all the excess elements into the digestive tract. So then at the end, you can purge them out. Because before you go into the last phase of the cleanse, you have your purge. So you drink castor oil and it just makes your things a little looser. Then it kind of just gently ushers them out. It's such a gentle and nourishing cleanse. And you've done quite a few of them, so you can speak for it. But it is just a time to really come and nourish yourself and get to understand your ways, understand your relationship with life and the life of your body. And they're really profound. It's such an invitation to do hard things.
Yeah. And to do them in community. So you have a group.
Yeah.
There's weekly mentorship calls. There's a private Facebook group, and it's really lovely. And in my previous experiences where people are very honest, they're like, whoa, today the struggle. Like, I am not well, and there's people with all different lifestyles, some that have more flexibility, some that are still in the 9 to 5. And that group is so encouraging. And there's just a million questions coming from people depending on their experience with the cleanse. And you are extremely patient and communicative. How many cleanses did you do on your own before you started guiding cleanses?
So I've been doing cleanses since 2011. And I started holding cleanses in 2021.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would do 20 a year. So
Yeah.
I need to kind of do the math. So, a lot.
Dozens. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the ladies listening to this who are considering, they're like, yeah, I've done a cleanse before, or yeah, I'm feeling a little sluggish. I think I'm ready for a cleanse. What would you want them to know the most for encouragement and motivation to sign up?
Oh, goodness. From this cleanse, the one thing that you're going to take away are some understanding about your physical body, but then just some simple ways of nourishment. Those things that feel so good and you walk away from them and you come back to them and you're like, God, those just feel so good. Those are some practices that, everybody that has done the cleanse always tells me, I always come back to drinking lemon water. I always come back to this tea. I always come back to this practice, whenever I'm feeling it. So it is a homecoming. It's going to give you tools that you need to just keep coming back home whenever you get pulled away.
And the practices that you guide us to, dry brushing, warm oiling and massaging your body, those were very foreign things to me. But after doing a few cleanses, they're now a part of my daily ritual. And they feel like such loving acts of devotion to myself that even if the day is different and I can't fit them in the morning, I'm fitting them in. It's a non-negotiable for me.
Mhm.
And that has been so grounding, so stabilizing, so transformative for me. But when we think about the word cleanse, it could be a real turnoff for people because they're like, oh, a juice cleanse, yuck, I've done that before. That was horrible. What differentiates this cleanse from just a traditional cleanse where usually the motivation is, I want to lose some weight? What makes this different than that?
Yeah. So this one is 14 days where your body is cleansing itself. where you are only focusing on nourishing and loving your body, and your body is cleansing. So it's not a time where you're going to deplete yourself. You're going to be doing these crazy workouts, taking these pills, drinking these juices and these powders. It's you are only focusing on feeding yourself, touching yourself, brushing yourself, oiling yourself, drinking your teas, fixing your meals, and your body's going to cleanse itself.
Yeah.
So really that's the biggest difference is nourishment over depletion.
Yeah. And you could certainly lose weight.
It's a
Weight-
byproduct.
Yeah, it's a natural byproduct of taking care of and paying attention to your body. If your body is holding on to excess weight from stress or emotional eating, when you shift to paying attention to your body and nourishing it, that's a natural byproduct. So that may or may not happen, but I just wanted to kind of call that out that if you're interested in a cleanse purely for weight loss, then I want to invite you to expand your vision for what a cleanse could do for you.
But
So
still
much
come and
more
get
than
some weight
that.
loss. I mean, everybody, you will lose weight on this cleanse, right? So if you're looking to lose 40 something pounds, this is 14 days and it's a food cleanse. Let's be real. You might, depending on how much inflammation you're carrying in your body,
Mhm.
but you will lose weight. It could be 2 pounds, it could be 5 pounds, it could be 12 pounds, it could be 40 pounds.
Yeah.
You're going to lose weight, but it's going to be the start of you losing weight, and especially if you continue these things.
Can you talk a little bit more about this cleanse as disease prevention or inflammation reduction, which we know inflammation and stress is the highest percentage in causation of our Western modern diseases. So
Yeah.
something that might be even more important to someone listening who has just been recently diagnosed or is experiencing a lot of physical issues that they don't understand, that their doctors are kind of just brushing off and prescribing medication. What could this cleanse do for them as far as disease prevention and inflammation reduction?
Yeah. Ayurveda is designed to be preventative, and also offer cures, right? All disease is formed by accumulation of toxic buildup in the body, right? So whether that's in your mind or in your body, like disease is started by accumulation of toxic buildup. And let's face it, we live in a toxic culture. And even if we lived in a very clean culture off the land, our cells emit toxins. So our bodies know how to rid of these toxins, but the amount of toxins that we have in our diet, in our water, in the air that we drink, in the soil that we're eating, it's exponential. So it's crucial that we go through these cleanses so we don't accumulate dis-ease in the body, so the body can be at ease and flow naturally. And so this cleanse is just a gentle, natural way to remove accumulation of toxic buildup in the body through your digestive tract.
Yeah.
And so if you have been just diagnosed, I'd love to talk to you and see what it is that we can help you with. But doing a cleanse of this sort is always beneficial.
Yeah. And I'll speak from my experience and results. One, doing the cleanse consistently spring and fall, year after year, it does get easier. If this is your first cleanse, just know it will be a challenge, but it will be so worth it. The benefits far outweigh the cost. I've walked away feeling so much lighter mentally, physically. I have had weight loss, significant inflammation reduction. And for me, that shows up with regular digestion instead of daily diarrhea. It's just TMI. But, I struggled before I did my first cleanse with you. I struggled with loose stools for over a year, every single day. And after that first cleanse, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first solid stool that I have had in over a year. And that was massive for me. And partly because we already know that there is this strong connection between our digestive health and our mental health and overall diseases. What's going to help our immune system versus make us much more susceptible to diseases and parasites and viruses, etc. And I think looking at our systems today, specifically our Western medicine, system and the political environment that we're in, it's even more important to start to take control of your health and your life by understanding first and foremost, where are my fault lines? Where am I susceptible? And how can I bring balance to that? Am I feeling sluggish? Am I feeling lethargic? Am I having digestion or pulmonary issues? If you're experiencing those symptoms right now, then consider this cleanse. So how can they find you? How can they sign up? What are the dates? Can you give us some of those details?
Yep. So the day one of the cleanse for the 14 days is March 10th, but I love to start with an introductory call. So the first call is going to be on March 6th, but it'll be recorded. So if you can't meet live, it'll be available for you to watch through the replay. If you want to join, I'll send Shar the link. And you can also follow me on social media on Instagram. I'm eat.love.ayurveda, Ayurveda, Ayurveda, or Facebook. I'm Katelyn Sonnier on Facebook. But yeah, I'd love to have you and enjoy this experience with you. But they're very profound. I learn something different every time.
Yeah, truly. And each one kind of like sequentially builds on it. It's like compounding interest, but it's compounding inner standing every single time you do a cleanse. That has been my understanding. And that feels so empowering. It just feels so empowering to understand instead of understand, understand what is happening inside of my body and what can I do about that?
Mhm.
How can I bring myself home through these practices and principles instead of feeling out of control? This is
Mhm.
outside of me and I need to go to a doctor. I need to go to someone else to tell me how
Mhm.
to heal my body. It's so, so empowering.
Through the cleanse, like you really get clear information on, yep, this food is aligned with my body. Nope, this one's not. Yep, this person is aligned for me. Nope, this one's not.
Mhm.
Yes, this practice is. Nope, not that one. Like you just learn how to feel and how to hear your yeses
Yeah.
and feel and hear your no's.
Yeah. And what would you say changes in women when they learn how to hear their yeses and their nos? How does that impact their life?
Their digestion. I mean, like how many women can say, yeah, there's nothing wrong with my digestion? There are some, right? But I mean, like that is such a common thing that I hear. My digestion and my hormones are out of balance. This cleanse will help you get your hormones in balance because your hormones are directly connected with the circadian rhythm. And this cleanse, part of the protocol is that you follow the circadian rhythm, like you follow the rhythm of nature. And so it will align your hormones.
Yeah. Beautiful. Let's end with this last question. If you could package up one little tidbit of wisdom. Obviously, the action is go sign up for Katelyn's cleanse. Let's make that clear. What's the wisdom? One piece of wisdom that you would want to leave our sisters listening to this call?
Mm. The one piece of wisdom that I would like to leave is to listen to the flow of life, to listen and then to the flow of your life. Like if things feel really hard and things feel really stuck, is life really flowing? So just slow down and listen. That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it that you literally just modeled that for us live. You took a
Oh,
deep breath. Yeah, like you literally modeled it. You took a deep breath, closed your eyes, you tipped your head down towards your heart space. You gave yourself a moment. You didn't feel pressured to have an answer right away. There was a pause. There was a literal pause.
hmm
And then you
yeah.
answered.
There
So
you go.
thank you
Pause.
for modeling.
Listen. And the cleanse is such a good pause. It is. It is a moment to just listen, and it reminds you on how to listen every day with
Yeah,
these practices that it leaves you with.
Beautiful. Thank you so much from a personal place for continuing to be my guide and mentor and teaching me how to listen and respond to my own body, to my own needs. Getting a little teary thinking about it, how much you've impacted my life this last year and how empowering that has been for me. And I just want to give that back. I want every woman to experience what I have been able to experience with you.
Thank you
So
for having
thank you for bookending my first podcast ever, coming on the first episode and closing out season 1 on this episode. Eternally grateful. So sisters listening, your call to action, if you are open to it, if you feel pulled towards it, is to sign up right now, today. Sign up for Katelyn's Cleanse and lean into the experience. Allow it to be whatever it needs to be for you, and trust that it is going to guide you home. It's going to guide you home. We are so glad that you joined us today on She Speaks. I am honored if you've been listening throughout this entire season. If not, go back and check out all of the episodes. They are just, every single one of them is rich with wisdom from all women, wellness-based practitioners, Ayurveda, acupuncture, coaching, trauma coaching. They're all across the board, and they've all been giving us the same pattern, which is learning to tune into the wisdom that is held within your body. And that is a learned practice that we were not taught. So I hope that you leave feeling seen, inspired, connected, and ready to take one step closer to living as your true self. That one step today can look like signing up for the cleanse and joining the community that does this twice a year. And if now's not the right time, then consider it for the fall after the summer season. I leave you with this. Remember, the wisdom we seek is often found within. Keep shining, keep speaking, keep listening to your inner voice, and join us next season, likely in the fall. Stay tuned as we continue this wisdom journey to wholehearted living. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a 5-star review and share it with the beloved sisters in your life. Don't keep this a secret. Share it. There are so many women that need this wisdom and they need this sisterhood. Be sure to check the show notes for ways to connect with Katelyn, to sign up for the cleanse, and I'll also provide some resources to support you on your journey to healing, health, happiness, and a returning home to yourself. Love you, sweet friends, and we will see you in season 2.